12 years before I died. When people die, they do not go to heaven. At least not immediately. They go backward. Nobody knows this because nobody comes back to explain it. Nobody remembers. The dead are given one last journey through the chain of events that eventually led them to their final breath. Some people go back a few minutes. Some go back years. A few go back decades. And some, according to the oldest stories, go back to the moment they were born. I didn't know any of this when I died. I only knew that I was standing in the middle of a road. There was rain. There was a horn. There was a flash of white headlights. Then there was the sound of my own bones breaking. I remember thinking, that's strange. Not I'm dying. Not I'm going to die. Just, that's strange. Because I had the overwhelming sensation that I had already experienced it. The headlights. The rain. The horn. The feeling of my feet leaving the pavement. I had seen it before. Not in a dream. Not in a memory. Somewhere deeper. Somewhere underneath my memories. Then the car hit me, and the world went black. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the rain. But the road was different. The buildings were different. The cars were different. The streetlights were different. I sat up. My ribs didn't hurt. My skull didn't hurt. I looked down. There wasn't a scratch on me. A car sped past, spraying water across the sidewalk. I stood. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I walked to the nearest storefront. A newspaper was taped inside the window. The date was printed across the top. October 17th, 2014. I stared at it. My heart began pounding. No. I checked my phone. Dead. I tried turning it on again. Nothing. Then I noticed something across the street. A little boy was standing beneath an awning. He was maybe 8 years old. He was staring directly at me. Not at the traffic. Not at the rain. At me. I crossed the street. Hey! The boy didn't move. Are you okay? He looked frightened. Then he whispered something. What? He pointed at my chest. You came out of the road. I looked behind me. There was nobody. What do you mean? The boy swallowed. I saw you. Saw me what? Die. I laughed. Came out nervous and weak. Kid, I'm not dead. He shook his head. Not yet. Then he ran. I spent the next 3 hours trying to convince myself that I was dreaming. I found an old payphone. I called my house. A woman answered. My mother. I almost dropped the receiver. Mom. There was silence. Then, who is this? It's me. Another silence. Who? It's Daniel. She laughed. A confused, uncomfortable laugh. Daniel who? My mother's voice. 12 years younger. Alive. I hung up. I walked for hours. Eventually I found my old house. It looked exactly as I remembered it. The blue shutters. The cracked front step. The dead maple tree beside the driveway. My old bedroom window. I stood across the street staring at it. A light came on upstairs. Then I saw myself. A 16-year-old version of me. He walked past the window. Couldn't breathe. I watched my younger self disappear. Then the curtains moved. Someone was standing behind them. A woman. I couldn't see her face. She raised one hand and waved. I stepped backward. The curtains fell shut. I spent the night in an abandoned bus shelter. At 3:17 in the morning, I woke to footsteps. Someone was walking toward me, slowly. Bare feet against wet pavement. Step. 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 I stood. Who's there? Nothing. Then a figure stepped beneath the streetlight. It was a man. An old man. His clothes were soaked. His skin was gray. And his eyes were completely black. He smiled. First time. I couldn't speak. He sat beside me. Don't worry. His voice sounded like gravel. The first one's confusing. What is this? He looked at me. You died. No. You did. I was hit by a car. Yes. So this is heaven? The old man laughed. No. Hell? No. Then what? He pointed down the road. Cause. I stared at him. What? You've been sent backward. Why? Because something caused your death. I know what caused my death. A car hit me. The old man smiled. That's what killed you. He leaned closer. I'm talking about what caused it. I didn't understand. He continued. Every death has a first domino. He tapped my chest. Yours fell 12 years ago. The next morning, I went looking for the old man. He was gone. But he had left something behind. A photograph. I picked it up. It showed a group of children standing outside a school. I recognized myself immediately. 16 years old. October 17, 2014. The same day I had arrived. There were 9 children in the photograph. 8 of them I recognized. The 9th was the boy I'd seen the day before. I turned the photograph over. Written on the back were 5 words. You were never supposed to remember him. His name was Ethan Vale. I learned that much from the school records. He had attended my high school for exactly 11 days. Then he disappeared. No body. No explanation. His parents claimed he had never existed. The school denied ever enrolling him. His teachers didn't remember him. Even his classmates didn't remember him. Except me. I found an old yearbook. There was a blank space in the sophomore class photograph. A strange rectangular patch where someone should have been. I touched it. And suddenly I remembered. Ethan. We had been friends. Best friends. He had told me something the week before he vanished. Something I had forgotten. Something my dead mind was beginning to uncover. We were walking home from school. He stopped beside an abandoned building. Daniel. What? Do you ever feel like people are pretending? What do you mean? Like they're not really people. I laughed. He didn't. Then he pointed at a window. There was a woman standing inside. She was watching us. See her? Yeah. That's my mother. I looked at him. Your mom? He nodded. My mother died 3 years ago. I turned back toward the window. The woman smiled. Then she slowly opened her mouth. Too wide. Far too wide. And whispered something through the glass. Even though she was 30 feet away, I heard her clearly. Daniel. Ethan grabbed my arm. Don't answer her. What is she? He stared at the woman. I don't know. Then he said something I'll never forget. She isn't dead. The memory ended. I collapsed against the wall. My head felt like it was splitting apart. Suddenly I remembered another thing. Ethan had given me something. A small metal key. He told me, if anything happens to me, don't let them find this. I searched my pockets. Nothing. Then I remembered where I'd hidden it. My bedroom. I went home. My younger self was gone. The house was empty. I climbed through the window. My old room smelled exactly as it had 12 years earlier. I pulled open the bottom drawer of my desk. Behind the drawer was a loose piece of wood. I removed it. There was the key. I picked it up. Something screamed downstairs. I froze. A woman's voice. My mother's voice. Daniel. I slowly turned. Daniel, honey? She was calling from downstairs. But my mother was at work. I knew she was. I'd seen her leave earlier. Daniel. The voice came again. Closer. I backed toward the window. Then the bedroom door opened. My mother stood there. Except it wasn't my mother. Her face was almost right. Almost. The eyes were too large. The smile was too wide. Her fingers hung down almost to her knees. She tilted her head. You're not supposed to be here yet. I jumped through the window. The key opened the door to an old church. It stood outside town. I'd never remembered it existing. Inside, there were hundreds of photographs pinned to the walls. People. Thousands of them. Children. Adults. Old people. Some were recognizable. Others weren't. Each photograph had a date, and beneath each date was a death. I found mine. Daniel Mercer. October 17, 2026. Cause of death. Vehicular impact. I stared at it. Then I noticed the date beneath. First cause. October 17, 2014. Underneath was another photograph. Ethan. And beneath him, missing. I turned around. The old man was standing in the doorway. You understand now. What is this place? The waiting room. For what? Death. I pointed at the photographs. Who are these people? People who died. Why are they here? They're not. I frowned. What? He smiled. The photographs are. Then I noticed something horrible. Every photograph was moving. Not like a video. Like a living thing trapped beneath glass. People were screaming silently. Begging. Running. Dying. Over and over. The old man walked toward me. Your death isn't the problem, Daniel. What is? You came back too far. What happens if I change something? He stopped. You can't. Why? Because you're already dead. He pointed toward the photograph of me. Everything you do here already happened. I stared at him. Then why am I here? He whispered. Because you haven't remembered the last thing yet. I found Ethan beneath the church. There was a staircase behind the altar. It led into darkness. At the bottom was a room filled with old televisions. Every screen showed a different person dying. A woman drowning. A man burning. A child falling from a roof. A soldier being shot. A man disappearing into a dark forest. Then one screen changed. It showed me. Standing in the road. The same moment I had died. I watched the car hit me. But something was wrong. The driver wasn't looking at the road. He was looking directly at me. Then the camera angle changed. It showed the driver's face. My face. I stepped backward. No. The driver was me. Older. The same clothes. The same face. The same eyes. I watched myself driving the car. I watched myself deliberately turn the wheel. I watched myself hit myself. The screen went black. Ethan stepped out of the darkness. You finally remembered. I stared at him. That wasn't me. It was. I didn't drive that car. Not yet. I felt sick. What does that mean? Ethan looked terrified. You haven't caused your death. He pointed behind me. You've caused mine. The room began shaking. The televisions flickered. One by one, every screen showed the same image. Me, 12 years earlier, standing outside the school, talking to Ethan. Then the image changed. Ethan was lying on the ground, blood beneath his head. I was standing over him, holding a metal pipe. I screamed. I didn't do that. Ethan whispered. You did. I don't remember. Because they took the memory. Who? He looked toward the ceiling. The lights went out. Something moved above us. I heard breathing. Hundreds of breaths. Then thousands. The darkness became crowded. I felt fingers touching my shoulders, my neck, my face. Something whispered into my ear. Everything that dies remembers. I turned. There was nobody there. Then I heard Ethan scream. I ran. I found myself back outside. It was raining. Exactly like the night I died. The school stood ahead of me. Every window was lit. People were watching from inside. Not students. Dead people. Their faces pressed against the glass. I ran toward the building. Inside, the hallway was empty. Then I saw Ethan. He was standing at the end of the corridor. Come on. I followed him. We reached the basement. He unlocked a door. Inside was a laboratory. Machines. Monitors. Old photographs. And dozens of human bodies hanging from the ceiling. Some were children. Some were adults. Some were still alive. Their mouths had been sewn shut. Their eyes had been removed. I gagged. What is this? Ethan whispered. They're making people. What? People who don't die. I stared at him. He pointed toward a machine. Person was lying inside. The machine was connected to hundreds of wires. The person's chest rose and fell. Then the body opened its eyes. They were black. The same black eyes as the old man's. Ethan backed away. They tried to make death impossible. Who? He looked at me. Your father. I froze. My father. He discovered something. What? Death isn't the end. Ethan pointed toward the bodies. It's a doorway. Then I remembered. My father hadn't died when I was young. He had disappeared. Everyone said he had abandoned us. But that wasn't true. He had been investigating the waiting room. He had discovered that when people died, they were transported backward to the event that ultimately caused their death. And he had become obsessed with changing it. He wanted to bring people back. He believed if he could stop the first domino, he could prevent death entirely. He succeeded. Sort of. The creatures in the laboratory were the result. They couldn't die. They couldn't remember. They existed outside the natural chain. And they were hungry. Not for flesh. For cause. They fed on the events that created death. Ethan had discovered them. That's why they killed him. And that's why I had forgotten him. Because I had helped them. My father appeared at the end of the room. He looked exactly as I remembered him. Older. Tired. Smiling. Hello, Daniel. I couldn't speak. Ethan stepped between us. Don't listen to him. My father smiled. You were always protective of him. What did you do? My father looked at me. I saved humanity. You killed Ethan. I prevented something much worse. What? He looked at the machines. The dead were never meant to come back. Then he pointed toward me. Neither were you. I felt something cold inside my chest. My father continued. When you died tonight, you came back here because this is where it began. He smiled sadly. But there is a problem. What? You aren't supposed to know. The lights flickered. The creatures began crawling from the ceiling. My father whispered, They will kill you again. Ethan grabbed my arm. Run. We ran. Through the school. Through the rain. Into the street. Car was coming. I recognized it. The same headlights. The same horn. The same car that had killed me. But it was 12 years earlier. The driver was my father. He swerved. I pushed Ethan out of the way. The car struck me. Again. My body flew through the air. Everything became white, and I understood. The old man had been wrong. I hadn't been sent backward to prevent my death. I had been sent backward to cause it. Because my death was necessary. It was the final piece of the chain. My father had killed Ethan. I had tried to save him. My father had tried to kill me. And 12 years later, the memory of Ethan had driven me to investigate the old church, which had eventually led me to my father's work, which had eventually led to my death. Everything connected. Perfect circle. I wasn't traveling through time. I was traveling through cause. And cause has no beginning. I woke up again. The road was gone. The rain was gone. I was standing in a white room. The old man was waiting. You understand now. I looked at him. What happens next? He pointed toward a door. I opened it. Beyond it was a street. A woman was standing there. A little girl was holding her hand. A man was getting into a car. A dog was crossing the road. Thousands of ordinary moments. All of them leading somewhere. All of them ending eventually. I looked back at the old man. Is this heaven? He shook his head. Not yet. What is it? The beginning. I stepped through the door. Then I heard someone call my name. Daniel. I turned. Ethan was standing behind me, but he wasn't 8 years old anymore. He was my age. He looked exactly as he had before he died. How are you here? He smiled. I never died. I stared at him. What? He stepped closer. I was sent backward too. From what? His smile disappeared. From tomorrow. I felt the blood drain from my face. Tomorrow. He nodded. Then he whispered, You haven't died yet. I looked down at myself. My hands were beginning to disappear. Ethan. He grabbed my wrist. You have 1 day. 1 day for what? To find the first domino. Where? He pointed toward the horizon. Your birth. The world went black. I woke up in a hospital. A woman was screaming. A doctor was shouting. Lights flashed overhead. Someone slapped my back. And then I heard it. A newborn baby crying. My baby crying. The doctor lifted me into the air. I looked down. Tiny hands. Tiny fingers. Tiny body. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. But I could see. Across the room stood a man. My father. He was holding something. A photograph. He looked at the newborn version of me. Then he looked directly into my eyes. And smiled. He leaned close. And whispered. I finally found the first cause. The doctor turned away. My father slipped something into my tiny hand. A small metal key. The same key. The one Ethan had given me 12 years earlier. The one I would eventually find. The one that would lead me to the church. The one that would lead me to my death. My father smiled. And said, Now we can begin. And that was when I realized the truth. I had not traveled 12 years into the past. I had traveled all the way back to the beginning of my death. And my death hadn't started when the car hit me. It hadn't started when Ethan disappeared. It hadn't started when my father built the laboratory. It hadn't even started when I was born. It had started before I existed. Something had been waiting for me. Something that knew my name. Something that had followed me backward through every memory. Something that had been beside me at every moment of my life. Something that had been there the first time I opened my eyes. And as my newborn lungs filled with air, I heard it whisper from somewhere beneath the hospital floor. We have 12 years. Then the lights went out. And every clock in the hospital stopped. At exactly 3:17. The time I had first met the old man. The time I had first died. The time I had first been born. And somewhere in the darkness, something laughed. Because now I understood. Death doesn't send you backward to change your life. It sends you backward to make sure you never could.